it's a great world out there. It's your job to be happy. Now find a way to get there. And there's always periods of grief. I mean, you can't escape that. But I just try real hard, and whatever experience grief is, to let it get me. Like I had to win that battle or win that war. Just I can't let it own me. I'll feel the grief. I'll understand it. You could wish it away, but it's always going to be there. But somehow you got to look on the bright side. I lost my best friend and brother about 7 years ago. Hardest thing I ever had to deal with.
Welcome to Grief, Gratitude, and the Gray in Between podcast. I'm your host, Kendra Rinaldi. This is a space to explore the full spectrum of grief, from the kind that comes with death to the kind that shows up in life's many transitions. Through stories and conversations, we remind each other that we're not alone. Your journey matters, and here we're figuring it out together. Let's dive right in to today's episode. Let's start with a quick disclaimer. This podcast includes personal stories and perspectives on topics like grief, health, and mental wellness. The views expressed by guests are their own and may reflect individual experiences that are not meant as medical advice. As the host, I hold space for diverse voices, but that does not mean I endorse every viewpoint shared. Please listen with care and take what resonates with you. Today on the podcast, we have Joe Elphick. He is a retired CEO and author who is guiding people towards positive living for true fulfillment. And I am looking forward to getting to know you and learn about your life. Welcome, Joe.
Thank you very much, Kendra. Pleasure to be here.
Thank you for joining us. Now, let's start by sharing to people where you are right now. As we're recording, you are vacationing. So where are you?
I'm vacationing down in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico, on the West Coast. Beautiful part of the world.
Nice. Never been to Puerto Vallarta, but I'm sure it's beautiful. I've been to Cancun, but never to Puerto Vallarta. I've heard it's beautiful. So, where did you grow up, Joe, and where do you live currently?
So I grew up in New Jersey, Catholic family, one of nine. Didn't have much financially, but had strong parents, good-willed parents, hardworking dad, and a mother of firm principles, good old Irish principles. It was a great place to come from. When you don't have a lot, you want a lot, and you learn how to get more your own way. And I'm very thankful for the upbringing that I did have. And it's just instilled a lot of things today. I look back of why I do things. A lot of it has been influenced by my mother and father.
What were some of these ways that they raised you that instilled this kind of go-getter type of personality that then you ended up becoming a CEO?
Yeah, I think the big thing was if you want something, that's fine, but figure out a way to get it without asking somebody else to get it for you. So, dad worked several jobs to support nine kids. He was a welder, blue collar worker, and I really saw, the hard work he just displayed to the family all the time. That to support the family that large, you had to put hours in and work several jobs, and he did what he had to do. And it was a great work ethic that I think I inherited from him. And my mother was one of very much principles. I used to think I was a mirror growing up because everything I did was a reflection on her. That kept it was these kind of things. It's your actions are bigger than your words, but everything to dressing correctly, looking good, and just strong principles.
Where were you in the birth order with nine siblings? Where were you?
That's a great question. It's a funny question. It's a funny answer. The best way to describe, I had four older, I had four younger, I had four brothers and four sisters. The middle
And
child
you just
syndrome all the way.
wow, you were
Yeah,
definitely right in the middle. So
yeah.
right. So were the siblings were all four of the oldest boys and the other four younger girls? No, they were mixed in
No, no,
between.
no.
Oh, okay,
They're all
okay.
mixed up. Yeah.
Mixed up, but you were right in the middle.
hmm
Now you grew up then in New Jersey. How did your life kind of evolve and where did you end up
Yeah,
living
again,
now?
I had some good work. I left college early. Again, if I wanted to go to college, I had to pay for it, find a way to get there, and I wound up working more to stay in school. And I decided I really enjoyed work, and I worked for a company that manufactured trucks, and I really found myself there that I loved manufacturing and business, and I really enjoyed it. So about 3, 4 years after that, I decided to pack my little suitcase and head to North Carolina and bought a piece of equipment for $600. And we were just doing trade work for printers. They needed die cutting. All the die cutting would be sent away. And my goal was to make boxes, as crazy as it may sound, paper boxes. And over the years, just turned profit into kept reinvesting the profits, and I had fantastic workforce here, fantastic management team. We grew the company to about 300 employees. We grew to a pretty large number, 60 million in sales. And by the time I sold it in 2020, and we were supplying basically packaging components, folding cartons, medical inserts to large pharmaceutical companies. And that time was just right to sell the company, and financial was the right time. My age was the right time, and that's what I did. And I really didn't look forward to retirement. The truth be known, my wife of 30 years, we decided that she wanted to be single, and I had all my wealth was tied up in the business. So the right thing was to sell the business, make her whole. We're good friends today. And my point saying all this is I didn't know what I wanted to do because I never thought of retiring. It didn't come into my mind. And I found out that it was a void. I really didn't care for retiring. I love to fish offshore. I love golf. But when you fish and you golf all the time, something's missing. Those were escape mechanisms for me. I loved my work, but still it was you stress yourself. You got to play golf. There's a little ball, and out in the middle of the ocean is beautiful. But when you do it every day, it turned into work. And I just found myself a big part of that missing. And writing this book I wrote gave me some purpose, you might say. And took me a year to write it. And the purpose of writing this book, True Fulfillment, was today I'm 70 years old. My oldest grandchild of five of them now is five. And I want to leave something to them that could say maybe a playbook for life, what's important in life. And the book outlines that. And, I told my daughters, I have three daughters, don't give it to the kids till maybe after eighth grade, maybe after high school, but it's a good book. It's a good playbook to read.
You're leaving your legacy there for them in the book. Just
Yeah,
I wonder what Grandpa would do. Well, now they know what
sure.
Grandpa would do with that book, and then it's also just for others. So, true fulfillment. What would be your definition of true fulfillment?
Yeah, it's amazing how the name of the book came after I wrote the book, and
Okay.
sometimes it depends. You call it karma if you're religious, you call it Holy Spirit, but something kept bugging me to write this book, and it was really based on the Ten Commandments. I grew up Catholic, but I didn't want to write a book about religion because I just find religion. I'm a looser Catholic today than I was then. Mom was pretty strict, but people fight about religion, and I really want to write about mankind and what was good, for mankind. So, with that in mind, you notice that the Ten Commandments were looked down upon. You're not allowed taken out of schools. They're not allowed to. Um, be public, yet they're in the Supreme Court in the background, the Ten Commandments. So I just found that interesting. And how could something that's good be not allowed? And then I thought about it. It's because it's religious and people fight about it. So basically, I tried to reframe the Ten Commandments into more practical things, more about mankind. And no matter what God you might have, that we're all created by something bigger. And the prize for that was mankind. So the book really centered about taking those Ten Commandments and reframing them. For example, thou shall not steal. Well, that's a civil crime anyway, but you frame that to say, well, be generous. And that whole chapter 7 is about being generous instead of saying the negative. Don't do this. It's do this, and that's that kind of like I'd be talking to my grandkids.
The wording that you just said is perfect because exactly with talking with children or to anybody, the moment you say the don't, I used to work with kids, and one of the things that was the rule is like instead of saying don't, we say the action that we want them to do, because that actually is, because the moment you say don't, it actually already creates the image of that thing. So it would always be like, don't throw the balls out of the ball pit. We wouldn't say that. We'd say keep the balls in the ball pit. It's just all this
Sure, sure.
reframing. But it's so funny though that then when I became a mom, all the don'ts, that all of that lingo went out the door. I'm like, don't fight, don't this, and I'm like, man, I should apply it in my own household. It's like,
Well, Kendra,
yeah,
if
it
you could
does
imagine,
change.
you can
Yeah,
imagine being a 8-year-old kid learning 10 commandments, and the sixth one is thou shalt not commit adultery. And I said, whoa, I don't even know what
what is
adultery
that?
is. So
So how did
here
you
you teach.
reframe that one? How did you
That
reframe?
was referring to loyalty. Be loyal.
Perfect. Be
Just
loyal.
loyal in
That
everything. Loyal to not only your spouse but to your core beliefs.
mm,
Just loyalty is a very strong word, but it really defines who you are. And if you go back and forth, you lose character, you lose backbone, you lose your purpose.
each one of those 10 commandments, then you basically flipped it into a virtue. Like virtue, what are we working on in order to not
Hmm.
do this, right? Be generous, be loyal, be kind, whichever ones that apply. And those are so uh, important in our lives to have these type of virtues. And that's really what we travel in this on this earth to do. I feel it's a way of acquire, instead of acquiring riches, right? It's another way of growing our virtues. So that I love that perspective of how you write that. Now let's talk about your own experience. You mentioned retirement. I'll go back to the book in a minute, and how that change of having worked all those years and all of a sudden you're shifting to not. Grief occurs in different life transitions, and changing of a job, changing your marital status, all of those imply a huge transition and can bring up grief. How did you navigate? You mentioned golf and fishing. How else did you navigate all of the emotions of grief that might have showed up in these major life transitions that you had just not long ago?
Yeah, again, we all experience grief, and again, that's something I've always been strong on. I always believed that you have a moral obligation to be happy. It's your job, it's your purpose. You can't be a good dad, you can't be a good husband, you can't be anything unless you strive for happiness, and that happiness exudes into all relationships. So there are times you just got to pull up your bootstraps and get tough and smack yourself on the back of the head and say, "Hey, get over it. It's a great world out there. It's your job to be happy. Now find a way to get there." And there's always periods of grief. I mean, you can't escape that. But I just try real hard, and whatever experience grief is, to let it get me. Like I had to win that battle or win that war. Just I can't let it own me. I'll feel the grief. I'll understand it. You could wish it away, but it's always going to be there. But somehow you got to look on the bright side. I lost my best friend and brother about 7 years ago. Hardest thing I ever had to deal with. But you turn, you said, "Boy, how lucky I was to have a brother like that." And I remember the good times and things we did together. And now these holidays pop up. I have a smile on my face about him. So you was able to turn that grief into appreciation or gratitude.
Mm. Yeah, it hence the title of this podcast, with grief gratitude, because it definitely shifts the perspective when we focus on the gratitude, and when we focus on the things that we're happy, it shifts it without necessarily negating that those emotions are there of grief and sadness. That
Mhm.
is valid. It's just how you reframe. So let's shift into your method, your T.R.U.E method. Let's talk about, because you have this acronym that you use, and what does each one stand for?
Sure.
Each
I
letter.
guess I can give you an example. Let's just take the seventh commandment for example. So the true is to now my book is not in front of me, so I'm going to have to really test is the first part to show. So test, do not steal. So think about that in today's world. That is, test, is that appropriate to tell a child, to tell anybody do not steal? There's laws against that. So take the R and reframe it into a positive or something virtuous. So instead of telling your child or your grandkids don't steal, reframe that into be generous. Be generous with your time, your talent, your treasure. And then to understand that is a you. And then, of course, the last is to embrace it and embrace that virtue of generosity. And again, that's the good example of the TRUE method that's mentioned in the book.
And how do you feel that when we live in that way, how does that end up leading to true happiness?
So I think again, if you look at the again, it's 10 commandments reframed into 10 commitments. And those
Mm.
commitments all make you a better person. It makes you treat people better. And everything is reciprocal in life. You know, you get what you give. And the more you give that positive energy, it comes back.
How do we implement the 10 commitments into
Yeah.
our day to day to shift the way that we do,
Oh,
like practical ways in which we, because now we know how we're able to reframe it with that true method, right? Okay,
right.
okay, how do we reframe it? How do we measure it? How do we understand it? How then do we embrace it in order to live our life day to day and how to apply
Mhm.
it?
So what I do on my Google Calendar, I take the 10 commandments as one word for each, and every week, like this week is honesty. And I really believe all these commitments are like mental muscles you have. If you don't practice them, they go away. You really have to think about them and question yourself about these. So, like this week is, if I look on my Google Calendar, all week the word honesty is up there, and that's from the eighth commandment. Do not bear false witness on the neighbor. So we switch that into honesty. And every day I've looked at my calendar, that word is up there and I think about it. And then there's times when, you know, it becomes part of my being is to do that. And you know, that's how I stay in tune with, because I really believe these are mental muscles that you have to go to the gym and work out. And the more you do it, the more generous you try are, the more generous it just grows and grows and grows. I'm answering that correctly, you know, and
No,
honesty.
no, that is perfect. Well, that
Yeah.
is so practical what you just said, because you actually put it on your calendar as to what is that virtue or commitment that you're going to be working on the
Mhm.
entire week. And so it's constantly in your mind. So
Yeah.
even choosing for people that maybe journal or things like that, choosing that virtue, in this case honesty of this one this week that you're having, and then even talking about or writing down what ways you were honest the day before, reflecting on your life day to day,
Mhm.
and doing that every week, changing one. Which one do you feel out of the commitments 'Cause are the is one of the hardest one to um I don't know, like when you're looking at your week and you label one, like this week's honest, okay, I can work on that. Is there one that you're like, this one's gonna be a little
I
more
can't say
work?
any of them are like that. They're all easy. The thing is
I
remembering
love
to
that.
do that.
Yes,
And the
yes.
one that, you know, really I always say that hit me was the last one was appreciation. And, you know, appreciation and gratitude are two different expressions. Gratitude's more within you feel thankful, but appreciation is verbalizing that to people you're thankful to and remembering to be appreciative and not only just be it, but say it, express it.
I love it. Which ways do you do that?
Oh, to tell you, that's again when that comes up. There's so much to appreciate. You know, my wife has been phenomenal. Like, I've had some illnesses, and she's a nurse practitioner. I said, "My God, I don't know how I met you or married you, but man, this has been something. I've been in the emergency room all weekend, and we live on an island, so there's no emergency room. So, you know, that's just a recent example of, I said, "Well, you know, this is special how I met you, and this how you are a woman that has this expertise as a nurse practitioner to fix me when I'm broken. And I'm a pretty healthy guy, so when I get sick, I'm a baby. Just I'm a mess. But so that's the first one that comes to mind on vacation here. You know, it's she had to bring some things with her because we almost canceled because I had a medical issue, and she said, "No, I got this. We're going. We got everything taken care of." So
Uh,
that plays into it.
and I love it. Okay, now I'm hearing some new information. So share with us about how it is you found love again. Are you open to sharing that since you're now then remarried and being
Yeah.
open to these possibilities after a big change?
I don't think you find it. I think it finds you. I mean, really, I think you can't go to mall shopping for that kind of thing. That's been my experience. It finds you, and you just open your eyes one day and say, "Wow, this is going to be an interesting relationship." And then it's about time. Time not only heals all wounds. I think it grows all crops too.
Mm. Especially if you're looking, if you're having your, not like necessarily looking, but if you're open to receiving,
Hmm.
then you're able
Yeah,
to really start shifting the way
yeah.
that you do. I love it. Thank you for sharing that, Joe. Joe, is there anything else that you'd like to share about your book that I have not asked you yet?
No, if the listeners want to get it, it's on Amazon. The comments, I don't have any. I don't want to be an author. That's not my deal to write the book. It's more of something I wanted to print and have for future generation. It wound up being sold to people in prisons and things of that nature. I belong to a fellowship group. Some of these people are coming up to me now and saying, "Wow, this has helped me," and how it's helped me through. Last week, somebody said forgiveness. My goodness, our family's been fighting. I got really strong. Whole first chapter is about forgiveness and about being a strength. And the person came up to me and said, "My family's come together because I had to be strong. And it's so hard to forgive because sometimes people don't let you forgive." So that was a biggie. So I didn't want to be an author. That's not me, but I wanted that. So I have a special email address, truefulfillment@fastmail.com. I look for comments and people comment, and I enjoy hearing the comments on that. But again, to get the book, I think it's a great gift. It's a great playbook for somebody going to college. As my daughters always say, they're going to use it when they do something wrong. Hey, get this book and open up chapter 8. This is what Papa would have said. So
Mhm.
that's what this book is about. And just a side note, I support two charities. That's my retirement. The major one, and all proceeds from this book will go to the Children's Flight of Hope. We fly sick children all over creation for special illnesses, and that's where the money goes for this. And it's mentioned in the book a few times. But that's it. It's a playbook, and I enjoyed writing it. It was a struggle, but I'm happy it's finished, and I can't wait for someday my grandkids to enjoy it.
That's wonderful. Thank you again. This was again Joe Elphick and his book, True Fulfillment, which you can find on Amazon. Thank you, Joe.
Thank you, Kendra. I appreciate it.
Thank you again so much for choosing to listen today. I hope that you can take away a few nuggets from today's episode that can bring you comfort in your times of grief. If so, it would mean so much to me if you would rate and comment on this episode. And if you feel inspired in some way to share it with someone who may need to hear this, please do so. Also, if you or someone you know has a story of grief and gratitude that should be shared so that others can be inspired as well, please reach out to me. And thanks once again for tuning in to Grief, Gratitude, and the Gray in Between podcast. Have a beautiful day.